It was a tale of two crowds last night on the campaign trail. Donald Trump, of course, always brags about the size of his crowds as a metric of his support nationally. It's not, of course. Take a look at the rally last night for Vice President Kamala Harris in Ann Arbor, Michigan. Her campaign says as many as 21,000 people were there. This comes a day after she drew 30,000 people, actually Friday night in Houston. Now, here's a look at some video from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution's excellent political reporter, Greg Bluestein. He says this was about an hour into Trump's speech last night at Georgia. You can see many, many empty seats. Those speeches go on and on and on, so some people who may have been there begin to stream out at some point. And Jonathan Lemire, another big speech dialed up tonight for Vice President Harris at the Ellipse, where they're expecting, at least they got a permit for 20,000 more people.
Yeah, certainly we know for a decade now how much Donald Trump prizes the size of his crowds, and perhaps no moment in his one debate with Vice President Harris got under his skin more when the vice president noted exactly what we just saw there, that during Trump's rallies, people eventually get up and they walk out and they leave. And we have seen this time and time again. He has a lighter campaign schedule this time around than in previous election cycles. The crowds are not as big. Many people have seen him before. He uses crowd size as a measure of enthusiasm. Well, if so, that's a worry. Vice President Harris, when she took over the ticket in July, had a bunch of mega rallies. She backed off those for a while, but they are back. And then certainly tonight at the Ellipse, she's trying to use that setting as the backdrop for her closing argument. And I saw it yesterday. The stage is being built there. It's the same spot where Trump held his Stop the Steal rally on January 6th, the moments before the Capitol insurrection. It's going to look very different tonight. There's a huge blue banner up that says freedom, which, of course, is Harris's sort of campaign slogan. They are expecting about 20,000 people. It's going to be chilly here in Washington this evening, but expect two things, I'm told, by Harris aides. One, of course, that contrast, some of it implicit, about the different visions about Donald Trump taking us back to the world of January 6th. Vice President Harris looking to move forward, warning about Trump and the dangers he would present if he has another 4 years, talking about his political enemies list, while Vice President Harris, and what has become her sort of go-to closing argument, talking about her to-do list, painting Trump for himself, her for the American people.
Gene, off of Jonathan's just assessment of the rally this evening in Washington, I'm wondering, you've been around a while, I've been around a while, we've seen a lot of campaigns, a lot of different candidates, but I can't even come close to imagining another candidacy or another campaign in the past that's so focused on cruelty and division heading into the election day. And I'm wondering if, like me, you think the ultimate question that might be answered a week from today, next Tuesday, Election Day, is not really who won and who lost, but who are we as a nation?
Right. Yeah, this is a test. This is like a giant litmus test for the American people. It seems to me. I mean, you cannot imagine two starker visions of America's past, present, and future, and you can't imagine two more starkly different visions of who we are. And Donald Trump believes we are that we are America first and only, that we hate immigrants, that we are racist, and that we are misogynistic, and that's this is the tenor of his campaign, and he hopes to win with that. He thinks that's who we are. Vice President Harris has a very different, more optimistic, and I hope more accurate vision of who we are, this great nation of immigrants, this nation of optimism, this nation of the future rather than the past. And I dearly hope she's right. But you're right, Mike. This is a test.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is clear. And I guess something that I just can't really figure out, and maybe you can help me out here. I can't figure out why a candidate who's traditionally has a 47 ceiling, 48 ceiling, I just don't understand why they don't play to bring more people in. Why, for them, it's a game of subtraction instead of a game of addition. We saw this with Carrie Lake, who was supposed to win 2 years ago. Everybody said she was going to win. She was going to be Arizona's next governor. She started insulting McCain. Republicans said, we don't want you here. Started insulting other people. We see it with Donald Trump all the time. Constantly talking about the others, constantly attacking the others. That's what we saw last night. And again, I don't know how he gets from here to there. Maybe he does. Maybe he wins. But it's constantly attacking other people instead of bringing them in to grow your campaign.
Yeah, and there's a problem with his theory, and he's always been this way, Joe. And frankly, it worked for him in 2016. I watched it work in my state, where he assumed that there were a bunch of voters out there that wanted to give the middle finger to America, that were so angry that where they found themselves in the world, that they thought the others, whether it was Mexicans or Muslims or black people or gay people, that they were the problem. Nothing in their life was the problem. The others were the problem. This is what Donald Trump has always marketed to. This has been his method. And he has always done this. Now, a political scientist will tell you, you've got to animate your base and get them enthusiastic about who you are and your vision, but you also have to bring out other people to your side. You have to reach out. You have to include others. And addition, not subtraction. That's not what Donald Trump does. Donald Trump wants to go deep into the hate, deep into the grievance. He wants to go further and further down this ugly slope to the least common denominator of humanity, which is, unfortunately, hate.
Yeah.
And that's where he's hanging out, and that's where he's going to stay. Now, will it work this time? I don't know. We've got an awful lot of Republicans, more so than I've never in history had this many cabinet members, the vice president, people who were close to him, very close to him in the first term. But never in history have this many people said, no, he can't be the guy. You can't vote for him. So we'll see if his subtraction works. I think you have to have addition, but it's very sad to me that this is the way he thinks you want to be president of the United States.
We've been looking at the destruction he will do if he wins and the hate.